Good evening, everyone. This is Robert Jamieson. Welcome to our online chess lesson for Thursday, the 3rd of April, our last one for this term. Now, last week we did openings, so I thought this week, to be different, we'd have a look at some basic endgame theory. Now, the most important sort of endgame is a rook ending, because about 10% of all games end up as a rook ending. So if you can be good at rook endings, you'll certainly win a lot of points and a lot of half points that you otherwise may not win or draw. So I'm going to do the basic theory, show you a couple of techniques for winning and drawing, and make you understand the basic principles behind particularly where to place your rooks. Okay, let me start off having a chat to Derek. Can you hear me okay, Derek?
Yes.
Yep, all right. Now, our little puzzle.
No.
Oh, can you make certain no one's
No, we
screaming
can
in the
start now.
background? You're okay, Derek?
Yes.
Yep, all right. I don't know who that was screaming out.
No.
All right. I'll move on to someone else until we can get quiet there, Derek. Thanks. Okay, try Maha. Maha, how about you? Are you okay?
Yes, I think so.
All right. You haven't got anyone naughty in the background screaming no at us, so that's good.
No.
Right. All right. Now, so we have a rook ending. It's equal material. White's attacking the pawn on a5. White's rook is threatening to just take the pawn on a5, but it's black's go. So what do you reckon black should do?
Rook to b1 check and then keep checking until you get to the 4th rank and then take the pawn and run your pawn down.
All right. So if I move my king up to the 4th rank, you're going to check me and win the a pawn. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'll give you two other moves. What do you think of rook a7 just to protect the pawn? Would that be safe enough move? Or is that a bad move?
Yes, but White's rook is active and your rook isn't that active.
Yeah.
It's only defending one pawn.
Your rook is passive, correct. Right, I was thinking a lot of you guys would probably just play rook a7 to defend the pawn. Because the most important thing in rook endings is getting an active rook. That's what we need to focus on. It doesn't matter so much about whether you're a pawn up or down here or there. If you've got the active rook, you're going to have the best chance either to draw or win, as the case may be. So in this position, if black played rook a7, for instance, and I was white, I think, what would my plan be for white? What do you reckon the idea would be? If white wants to win, how's he going to try and win?
Well, firstly, I think he might try the same idea, but it won't be possible because he can just come forward because his rook's on the 7th rank. But you could try to go check him and then win the G and H pawns, run your G and H pawns up the board.
No, I don't think you do that. White's rook is in a really good
Bring your king in.
because he's got black tied down to defending that a pawn. So he doesn't really want to go around giving a check that just drives black's king forward. What White's plan would be, he wants to get his king maybe over to b5 to put more pressure on that a pawn and see if he can win that a pawn. That would be his plan, and black's plan would be he'd be trying to rush his king over there as well to get there before white does. So if I were white, I think I might play a sneaky move here. I might play rook f5 just to cut off the black king so he can't come across to the queen side. Maybe black would attack my rook. Where would I put my rook now, Maha? What do you think? Where would be the best spot for the rook?
I can't hear you.
Where would be the best spot for the rook? Where do you want to move the rook? you want to go across and keep attacking the pawn, or do you want to go up or down and keep the king out?
I'd go for around.
Which square?
I'd go for A5. It's still keeping the king in, sort of, and it's also getting the A pawn.
Okay, that may not be too bad. I think I'd choose F6 personally. So maybe he'd play King G7, then I'd swing my rook way over. So now I've cut his king off from the 6th rank, so his king can't get over that rank, and my king will hopefully just be able to hoon up to B5, and hopefully I'm winning, all because he had a passive rook. Now, your idea of rook B1 is probably the best one, but even if black played rook B2, for instance, and let white take the pawn, where would you put your rook now if you were black? Where would be the best spot?
Well, it's behind a passed pawn. I mean, in front of a passed pawn, so he could try the A2.
Yes. So we have a saying, this is very important, rooks belong behind passed pawns. So rook A2 behind that passed A pawn would be the best spot. So now we've cut white's king off. His king can't cross the 2nd rank at the moment. All he could do, he could move his rook to the 8th maybe and try and push his pawn up. But we can just sit tight. And if white wants to move his... See, if the pawn goes to the 7th, he can't move his rook away and queen it because our rook will take it. So he really needs the king to come over to support it. So if his king sort of wanders over, forces our rook away and wanders up here, by the time all that's happened, we've gobbled his G pawn and his H pawn. And now, even though white might end up getting a queen and we have to give up our rook for it, we've got 2 pawns to nothing over here, and it should be a pretty simple sort of draw. So rook B2 is probably good enough to draw. Rook B1, Maha's move, is probably the best move, having a really active rook. Rook A2, bad move, because active rooks are the most important thing. All right, so I hope most of you understood that. Let me ask you a little question, Maha. Why are rooks better behind passed pawns rather than in front of them? Do you know one of the reasons?
Well, if they're in front of them, you can always push up your king and distract the rook away.
No, you could do that to the rook behind as well. See, white could come across and distract the rook that's behind the passed pawn. Any other idea why you'd want your rook behind rather than in front?
Is that because if you put it in front, it blocks the path for the pawn?
Not really, because you're either blocked with the white rook, or if we did it the other way around, it'd be blocked with the black rook. So the pawn will be blocked anyway. I'll tell you the reason. So the reason we like rooks behind passed pawns is, at the moment, have a look at white's rook. So he, apart from protecting his pawn, he can go anywhere on the 7th rank, the 6th, the 5th, the 4th, the 3rd on the A file. So he's got all those squares he could go to. So if he wanted, he could go to A6 or something to cut off the black king. But now, when he starts moving the pawn forwards, now he can't go to all those squares. He can only go to 3 squares. And meanwhile, black's rook before, which couldn't go anywhere, he's now got more squares he can go to. If we take it to the extreme, when white gets his pawn right up to the end, his rook can't go anywhere, and black's rook has got heaps of squares to go to. You see that? So that's one of the reasons we want the rook behind the passed pawn, because the nearer the pawn gets to queening, the more active our rook will be. Okay. Let's move on then to our second position. Okay. Now, the most basic thing, so I have a rook and a pawn, and you only have a rook. So you're trying to draw, I'm trying to get my pawn through and queen, and try and get a win. So, Maha, where would you want your king? So if you're the defending side, whereabouts on the board in general would you want to put your king?
In front of the passed pawn. So if the pawn's going to queen on g1,
Yeah.
I'd put my queen on
King on
g1.
Yeah, exactly right. You've got to try and get your king in front of the passed pawn. So then often either you can stop the passed pawn, or if you had a rook swap off and had a king and pawn ending, your king would be in front of the pawn and it would still be a draw. So that's very important we understand. So if you're defending, rush your king in front of the passed pawn. All right. Now, some positions are pretty easy to draw, others are a little bit more difficult. So let's have a think about this one, guys. So let's say you're white. So black's obviously coming down with his pawn trying to get a queen, but you've got your king in the ideal spot in front of it. Now, I'm going to let you put your rook anywhere you like on the board, so long as it's not, say, h2 check or something attacking my rook. That'd be a bit naughty. So if you want to get an ironclad draw, so type in the question box, what square would you put your white rook on? Maybe you want to put it on h8, f4, or f1. You tell me which square you reckon would be the easiest way to draw against the g pawn, or for that matter, an h pawn. So type in the question box what your answer is. So Timmy likes g8. Anyone else want to have a go? What do you think, Maha? Where would you put it?
I'd agree with g8.
Okay, because you're going rooks long behind passed pawns, is that right?
Yes, and if he pushes, you can always, if the king doesn't push too much, and your opponent makes the mistake of just pushing your pawn, you can always swap rooks, and get a draw.
All right, now the problem is g8 is not the right answer because I'm now going to play king g3. So that's threatening checkmate on b1. So what are you going to do about that?
Right. So is the answer g2?
So hang on. So we'll just look at g8 first. So can you see you're in a problem now? So either you've got to run away with your king and get out from in front of the passed pawn. So that's helped me. Or if you decide to try and defend the checkmate with your rook, then I can go rook b1 check. You go down. I can swap the rooks, and now my king's forward enough. He's going to help the pawn through by playing king h2. All right, so not g8. All right, the correct answer is you put your rook on the first rank, preferably far away. So we'll say a1. All right, Maha. So you can be black. You try and beat me from this position, and we'll see how we go. You want to move your king up or push your pawn? What would you do?
King g3.
All right, I'll just go rook to c1. I'm just going to move my rook backwards and forwards. What would you like to do?
Rook to g2.
All right, I go to h1.
King to f2.
Now, got to be careful. If you go to king to f2, I'm going to play rook c2 check and I win.
Right.
See, so you can go rook h2 check. I just go back to g1. See, so you can never really get my king out of h1 and g1. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's called the first rank defense. So against a G pawn or an H pawn, if you want to draw, just put your rook on the first rank, leave it there, and your king can rotate if necessary between G1, H1. Very easy draw. All right, thanks, Maha. I'll give someone else a go. Let's talk to Oliver. You there, Oliver?
Yes.
Okay. You didn't see the rook A1 defense? Where would you have gone?
Um,
Or you hadn't
I
decided?
probably haven't decided yet.
Okay. All right. Well, make a mental note of that anyway. So first rank defense against a G pawn or an H pawn. Now, here's a similar one, but it's different in it's now an F pawn. So white's winning this time. He's trying to get his F pawn through. And black's got his king in the right place. It's in front of the pawn. And black's got his rook in a good spot because he's miles away from the white king. So rooks operate best from a distance. That's one of the things we're trying to remember from today's lesson. Now, the question is, how is black going to try and draw this one? So we'll do the same thing, everyone. So it's black's go. So you write down what square from here you reckon black's got to put his rook on to get a draw. Does he do the first rank defense? Does he go back to B8? Does he check? Does he go to behind the pawn? Does he go to H1? Where should he put that rook to get a certain draw? So have a think and type your answer in the question box. Have you ever had an ending like this, Oliver? You've had a rook and pawn ending or not?
I don't think so.
Yeah, this one comes up quite a lot, the F pawn or the C pawn. And it's amazing how often players will lose it when, if they know the right idea, they can get an easy draw. Now, Maha's going rook F1 behind the pawn. Would you agree with that, or you got somewhere different?
Yeah, I'd agree.
Okay. Now, both of you have fallen for exactly the same thing as we just did a minute ago. So I'm now going to put my king in front of the pawn, like I did in the last puzzle. And I'm threatening checkmate. So what are you going to do about that?
Rook E1.
All right. And this is the same as before. Rook A8, check. You've got to put your rook in the way. I take, you take, king G7. I win. Okay, so even though we say rooks belong behind past pawns, in this situation, not F1. So you want another go?
Okay.
All right, so try another square. What would be another likely candidate to get a draw?
Maybe Rook G1.
Rook G1, so you've got me in check, but I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go king F6. Again, I'm threatening checkmate. So you've still got a similar problem, haven't you? You see you're in a bit of strife?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'll tell you the answer. Now remember how the last puzzle, it was called the first rank defense. This one is called the third rank defense. So what you do is you put your rook, in this case it would go to B6. So now the rook is controlling all the squares on its third rank. Okay, so that means that white's king can't go forwards, doesn't it? Because it'll be check. So the king can't go to F6 or G6 or H6 or anything to help its pawn. So what's the only way white can make some progress?
F6.
Yes, Because rook check would be no good because I just moved my king up. That hasn't helped at all. So the only way white can make some progress is playing the pawn up. Now, as soon as he does the pawn up, black has a good move that's going to get him a certain draw. So what should he do now, do you think?
Rook b5.
Rook b5. You've fallen for it. Now I'm going to play king g6. And I'm threatening a8 checkmate again. So what are you going to do about the checkmate? You've got to go back to b8, haven't you?
Yeah.
All right. And then I swing my rook right across to the h file. So now I'm threatening checkmate again. And if you play king to g8, what could I do?
Go pawn g7.
Pawn to f7, that's right. King f8,
Yeah.
rook h8, and I win your rook and the game. Now the problem was, so we got the right first move, rook b6, and as soon as we played the pawn up, the problem is you only put your rook on the 5th rank, so when I moved up, your rook can't annoy my king because it's too close. So rooks operate best from a distance. So instead of going to b5, what would be the best square? Distance means distance from the other guy's king. How can we get really far away from the king so that we can annoy him with checks? And we don't have to worry about being checkmated ourselves because he's in check all the time. Any idea?
No.
Maha's got it. Here we go. Rook b1. Right, now the only way you can make progress is to move your king up, threatening the checkmate again on a8. But instead of going back all defensive now, our rook's from a distance, so we go rook g1 check. So where are you going to hide? You go to f5, I go f1 check. You go to e6, I go e1 check. So you see how I got the draw now? Because white's king can't hide from the checks.
Yes.
Yeah, if my rook was in close, it might be a different story, but my rook's far, far away. All right, so let's just go back to make certain we understand it. So against an f pawn or a c pawn, we put our rook on our 3rd rank, in this case b6, and the rule is when the other guy pushes his pawn up to our 3rd rank or his 6th rank, our rook hoons back down to the back, and we check the king from behind, get a certain draw. Right, so that's the 3rd rank defence. So that's 2 pretty standard defences you guys have learnt today. Okay, I'll move on and give Timmy a go. You there, Tim?
Yes.
Okay. Did you do any good with those 3rd rank defences and 1st rank defences? Have you seen them before or not?
Yeah, I've seen them.
Okay, all right. Now this one's a bit tricky. This is a special position. It's called the Lucina position. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay, well, Lucina was an Italian chess player, I think in about the 15th century or 16th century, something like that, many, many years ago, and he solved the problem here. So the problem is this time, white's trying to queen his pawn, and he's almost there because he's got his pawn on the 7th rank, just 1 square to go, and black's ideal position with his king. Black would have loved to have his king in front of the pawn, like we've been saying, but this time black wasn't able to get there in time. So he's done the next best thing and he's sort of beside the pawn. But what's white's problem? Why hasn't he won the game already? What's his problem here, do you think?
The king is stuck.
Yeah, the king can't get out. So it can't go to the A file and it can't go to the C file. And like if we check on C8, the king just goes to D7 and that hasn't really helped us. So for white to queen that pawn, he's got to find a way to get his king out. Now, the first move's a pretty obvious move. So if you were white, what do you reckon would be your plan here for the first move?
White should do rook c8.
White's rook to where?
c8.
C for Charlie, up there.
Here, c8.
Yep, all right. I'm going to d7. We just did this. So how are you going to get your king out now?
Then you could probably do maybe rook
Where?
c7.
I just go
Rook
back.
c7.
Yeah. So you're just going to chase me backwards and forwards. You can't get your king out. Now, Maha's got the right idea. I'll give you one more go, Timmy. So it's not c8. What would be another way to help get your king out?
Is it rook h1?
No, because then you can check me on h8 and I just go to d7. You've got to get me off the d file. All right, so I'll give you the first move. Maha's got it. So the first move, you go rook d1 check. Because now where my king was sandwiching you in, now that's going to force my king away. All right, so you've made progress. But now the problem is, if you bring your king out, because my rook's nice and from a distance, I can just check you, like we did in the last puzzle. And no matter where you go, I just keep checking, or you've got to hide in front of the pawn. So it hasn't really helped. All right, so this is the hard move here. So everyone, have a think. White does have a way how he can protect his king from those checks and get his pawn through to a queen, but it depends on him finding the right move here. So what move do you reckon white should play here? Type it in the question box. It's called building a bridge. Maha's going rook d5. Anyone else have an idea? What do you think, Timmy? Do you like rook d5 or some other move you've got?
You could do rook b1, pretty sure.
Rook b1, that's not going to help. I just go back and we're in the same starting position pretty much. Your king's trapped in. You've got to get your king out. Let's have a look at Maha's move. Maha goes rook d5. Now what I'm going to do now is king e6. So if you want, maybe you can play king c7. And my best is probably to take the rook and you get a queen. So it'll be queen against rook, which should be a win, but it's pretty hard. And if you move your rook, if you don't play king c7, if you move your rook somewhere, I can just go back and keep your king out. So rook d5 is a good attempt, but there is something a bit better. Any idea, Tim, or you want me to tell you the answer?
No, I don't think I have an idea.
All right, Maha's come up with the correct move. Well done, Maha. So the correct idea is rook d4. called building a bridge, as I mentioned. Now I'll show you what happens. So let's say black just moves his rook down to a1. Now white's king tries to come out to c7. So what's black got to do to stop that pawn queening?
Rook C1.
Rook c1. He's got to keep the king in check. All right. Now I'll go to b6, threatening to get a queen. So what do you got to do now? Keep checking me. b1 check. What about that?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, all right. Now I'm going to go to c6. Now say you check me again. Now I play the killer move, king b5. So I'm threatening to get a queen. And this time, if you check me, now my rook can come in the way. See that? So the rook is hiding me from those checks. Whereas before, when the rook was down on d2 or somewhere, my king couldn't get out of the checks. Now the rook can come across, cover the checks, and I can't stop the queen. Okay? Right, so that's called the Lucena position. I'll just go through it once more so you put it in your brain. So we check the king away first so our king can get out. But if our king comes out straight away, he just gets checked. So the key move is not Mahar's first go rook d5, it's rook d4. So that when the king comes out, we can give the king cover eventually on the b4 square. All right. You reckon you remember that one, Timmy?
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Thanks for that. I'll give someone else a go. Let's try Liam. You there, Liam?
Yep.
How are you tonight?
Good.
You've come in a bit late, haven't you? You missed the first part of the lesson.
Yeah, dinner was a little bit late, so
Oh, well, never
had
mind.
to miss a
It's
little.
all recorded, so if you want to go and see the first part, it'll probably be on our website in a day or two. We're doing rook and pawn endings, and we've done a third rank
Okay.
and a first rank defense, and we've done the Lucena position. And what I'm saying is you guys remember two things. We want to get active rooks, and rooks operate best from a distance. So now we've had a look before trying to draw with the rook behind the passed pawn, which is normally the best spot. But in this position, we're going to have a look and see how the rook copes if he's not in the best spot, but he's actually in front of the passed pawn. So in this diagram, white's trying to get his pawn through to become a queen, and he's got a good setup so far because the poor old black king is on the side of the board, and because white's rook's on the b file, the black king can't come across to get in front of the pawn, which we said is the ideal spot. So black's king's sort of out of it at the minute. All right, so you can play white, and I'll play black, and we'll see if you can get your pawn through to be a queen. So what move would you like to do first off?
Maybe rook b6.
b6. All right, now the trouble with that is my king is going to come back towards getting in front of the pawn, so I'm going to go king a5. What are you going to do next?
Then I that wasn't very good.
Yeah, because if your rook moves away, then my king can move across and get in front of the pawn. So that probably hasn't really helped you. So let's just focus on your king and your pawn. You see if you can get them through against my rook. So maybe start off with a king move.
Okay. King c4.
All right, king c4. All right, so I'll give you a check.
King d5.
All right, I'll give you another check.
king e4.
I'll check you again. This is like the Lucina position where your king couldn't hide. From the look of it, where can
King d3.
All right, and I'll go back in front of your pawn. So we're back to the start. So try something a bit different.
Yeah.
Try moving forwards rather than backwards.
Okay. King c4.
All right, I'll go check again.
Then
King d5.
king d5.
All right, I'll check you again. Now don't go backwards. Go sideways.
Then king e6.
E6, I take the pawn. So be careful.
Oh, okay. King e5.
All right, now I'll give you another check.
King d6 maybe.
Yep, good try. But now I'll go check again.
Ah.
So you've really got to go back again, otherwise your pawn's gone. See? So it looks like I've got a draw, doesn't it? Because my rook is so far away from your king, from a distance, I can just keep checking you or attacking your pawn. All right, now let's make it different. Let's move it up a rank. All right, so now instead of having 3 squares between the rook and the pawn, I've only got 2 squares. So my rook is closer. All right, so you have a go now. See if this makes any difference.
Okay, king c5.
All right, I'll go rook check.
King d6.
Okay, I'll go rook check.
King e6.
Okay, I have to go rook check again.
King d7.
Yes! Now you've got me because you're in close. My poor old rook loves to be at a distance, but you're in close. So I can't go d8 check. I've got to run away. And now you can just push the pawn. And the king and the pawn are going to steamroll through with a bit of help from the rook in a minute. So see what difference that made? Just one little rank. So
Yeah.
if there are only 2 squares, my rook's too close. But if there were 3 squares, or even if there were 4 squares, if it was on the 3rd rank, it looks like the rook is able to defend. So you understand that?
Yep.
All right. But there is a trick. I'll see if any of you guys are really, really, really smart, because not many people get this. So this is the starting position. It's white's go, and we've just had a look at some lines, and we reckon the rook's far enough away from the white king and pawn to get a successful draw by checking from a distance. But white has a trick that he can still win in this position, even though the rook's away from distance. So I'll give you guys about 10 or 15 seconds. Can you find a clever move for white that might still let him win? We tried rook b6 a minute ago, didn't seem to help too much. Now Oliver's having a look at rook a1. Timmy's liking rook a1. Maha's trying rook d1. Got to use your imagination. Give you another 5 seconds. Anyone else want to have a go? Oliver's trying king c3. Liam, you got any ideas?
Maybe rook b7.
Okay, well, rook b7 is better than rook b6. So the other guys, they're going like rook a1, but that just helps me get my king back in front of the pawn. So that's no good. And rook d1's sneaky, but again, my king comes back in front of the pawn. So Maha's idea doesn't work. Rook b7, better than b6, but I'm just going to move my king back. And I think I'm just hanging in there enough to get a draw. All right, no one's really got the answer. Even king c3 doesn't really help much. So I'll show you the tricky move. You ready, Liam? This is a good
Yep.
puzzle if you want to show some of your kids at school or something like that. White's killer move is actually pawn to d5, which looks totally stupid, because what happens if rook takes pawn check? What can I do?
King c4.
Yes, now I've got a double attack. I'm threatening to win the rook, and I'm threatening checkmate on a1. So poor old black, he's either going to get checkmated, or he's going to lose his rook. So he can't, in fact, take the pawn. So, like, maybe he moves his king, but what do we do then?
Then maybe king d4.
Yeah, we just move our king up, and we had the position we had at the start, where there's only 2 squares between the rook and the pawn, and it wasn't enough. So we worked out that was going to be a win, but we were struggling with the 3 squares. But because black's king is in the wrong spot with that funny checkmate, pawn to d5 is actually a killer. So that's a nice little puzzle. All right, I'll give someone else a go. Thanks, Liam. All right, who shall we try? I'll see if Derek's behaving himself. Hello again, Derek. Can you hear me or not? No? Okay, Derek's not talking to me today. We'll go back to Maha. You there, Maha?
Hi.
Hi. All right.
Hi.
Hello again. Here's our lucky last position. Actually, I'll take a white pawn off. So here we go. This is a bit like one of the positions we looked at the start. So white's only got one pawn, but he's got his rook in the bad spot in front of the pawn. So what are his 2 plans to get that pawn through to a queen, do you think? What idea would you have if you were white?
1, bring my king in, but it doesn't look like it's possible. And 2, I'd think of pushing my pawn up and somewhat like doing something.
Yep, exactly right. So they're the 2 plans. Either white pushes his pawn up. Now the trouble with that is then the rook can't move because the pawn will get lost. If, let's say, black's king was on g5, would pushing up the pawn be good now?
Yeah.
Yep, because next move, no matter what black does, we can check him, and when he moves out of check, we can get a queen. But if we can't check the king, then pushing the pawn up doesn't look like it's going to be any good. What would happen? Say we push let's try this. Right, we push the pawn up, and black just leaves his king waddling around. So white's plan, he moves his king across to b2 to attack the rook. So the rook moves away. And now white's king is free, and he can zoom up. It's taken him a long while, but he can zoom up and get close to that pawn. So do you reckon that's going to be a win for him, or is that still a draw?
I'd say that's a win.
Okay.
But he can keep checking.
The bad news is not a win because the rook's at a distance, and I just keep checking you. And if you go too far away from the pawn, I can just go back behind the pawn. Now the king's got nowhere to hide from the checks. So once that pawn goes up to the 7th, the king's got nowhere to hide. So the other plan is often you leave the pawn on the 6th, and the idea is we're going to do the same thing. So my plan is going to move my king across to the rook. The rook will move away, but stay behind the pawn. Then I move my king up. All right, so you play a move for black here, Marham. We'll see how we go.
Rook to b1.
All right, now I'll hide in front of the pawn. So it's your go.
Keep my rook on the b file, so rook to b2.
Rook to b2. All right, but now I can play rook to b8, forcing you off the b file. So where do you want to put your rook?
On a2.
All right, and now I move my rook to b6. Let's say you move your king or something.
Yeah.
But I just play king b7, and so you can't stop me now. I'm going a7, a8.
So I'll have to sacrifice my rook for.
You have to sacrifice.
But I can go e2 and then go up to e7.
Yeah, but by the time my pawn's got up to the 7th, you're in a pickle, because I can still hide, and if you try and cover it, my rook can come down and help it get through. Right, so that looked like a much better plan. We'll leave the pawn on the 6th rank, but maybe black has a better defense. So let's try something. So I'll play king f2. Now, can you see a better idea for black that might give him a chance of getting a draw? I'm coming across to b2 to chase your rook away. So what would you like to do?
Not let the king of the second or first rank.
Yeah, but you can't stop me because I'm coming across to b2. So you've got to move.
Once you come to b2, swing over to h3.
All right. Now, are you going to leave your king on g7, or do you want to do something different with it?
Well, while your king's trying to come over, I'd also bring my king over.
All right, let's try that. So you want to go king f7 maybe?
Yep.
All right, I'll go king e2. What do you want to do now?
e7.
Okay. All right, now let's stop, everyone. A final little test for you. Maha's last move is a blunder. So can you find a winning idea for white in this position? It looked okay, because if I'm just running across the rook, her king is going to run across and stop that pawn. So it looks like a good drawing idea, but there is a trick. See if anyone knows the trick. If you know the answer, type it in the question box. Oliver's saying a7. Anyone agree with that or disagree? What do you think, Maha? Do you like a7 or something else? Can you see white's trick?
No.
Timmy's going rook a7, but that's only going to help the king come across. All right. Let's try a7. I'll just talk to Oliver because it's his idea. You there, Oliver?
Yep.
All right, so your idea a7. Now, what are you going to do if I just move my king across to d7 towards your pawn? What's your plan?
Then you can move to king d2.
Right, and then I go king c7.
And then you go rook b8.
I just take your pawn. Almost. I'll show you. It's pretty tricky. So I go to f2, you go to f7, I go to e2, you go to e7. Blunder. Because now instead of the plan of moving my king across the way we're doing, I go up to the 7th rank. And if we move the king across like we just did, white has the clever move rook h8. Threatening to get a queen. And when rook takes the pawn, what can I do, Oliver?
Rook h7, win the rook.
Win the rook, very good. Yep. So that's the common little trap. And actually in this position with the extra pawn, white doesn't have to worry about his king. He can just throw his pawn, or rank, throw his pawn up and force the king to take it. and do the same trick, because there's only two safe squares on the board, G7 and H7. The king has to stay there. If we can lure him across, we can do that skewering manoeuvre. All right, well, that's the end of today's lesson. I hope you guys have learned a little bit about rook endgame and rook theory. So remember the first rank defence and the third rank defence, and the Lucina position building that bridge, and then the rook in front of the pawn, so long as the rook's at a distance. Try and keep your rooks at a distance from the king, and you'll do pretty well. All right, I think you guys have school holidays for the next few weeks, and our next lesson is probably in about 3 weeks' time. So I look forward to catching up with you all then. So have an enjoyable holiday, and I'll see you in a few weeks. Thanks, and good night, everyone.